Okay, folks, if you are a fan of the Arrowverse, which I know technically the Arrowverse ended with, well, I mean, Superman and Lois was what most consider to be the official end of the Arrowverse as we know it, considering Superman and Lois were introduced via the Arrowverse. Their spinoff was originally a part of the Arrowverse, but then at some point they opted to make it its own separate multiverse thing. So most say that when the Flash ended with season 9, that was actually the ending of the Arrowverse. But regardless, I've been I want to say over the past couple weeks on Netflix, I've been kind of binging some of the old shows. I remember I'm about halfway through Legends of Tomorrow season 3. I started at season 1. I don't care what anybody says. I enjoy the first season. I think as a whole, season 2 with the Legion of Doom is probably my favorite season. Season 3 was a standout because of Zari. Not to mention Wally West was utilized so much better on Legends than he ever was in The Flash. And I watched, let's see, up until Invasion. Yeah, so I watched about 2.5 seasons of The Flash. A handful of episodes of Arrow. I didn't watch Supergirl. I mean, I did when it came out, but I only watched like the first 3 seasons and I stopped. Black Lightning, I did watch all that when it came out, so I didn't rewatch that. But the focus of this video was the Invasion because I remember most people would agree that the Flash began to fall off after season 3. Season 4 with the Thinker was intriguing because finally we have a non-speedster villain. But at the same time, that's when we had what many consider the death of the series when Iris West became a major character, leader of Team Flash, and of course the line that the show is known for more than anything. And no, it's not "Run, Barry, run." It's the line, those 3 words or 4 words, "We are the Flash." Like, what the heck? But season 3, I remember the fans being so disappointed when Flashpoint, something that season 2 ended with, and we're like, oh snap, Flashpoint. You know, Barry went back, stopped his mom from being killed, so we know Flashpoint is going to happen. And we're like, okay, maybe like the first half of season 3 is going to be Flashpoint, you know, a different timeline and everything. And then maybe in the back half of the season, Barry will, you know, try to set things right because he realizes, oh, my mom has to die. No, Flashpoint was only 1 episode. The first episode. Then the second episode onward was Barry trying to come to grips to, you know, what the new timeline he created is. And one of the major reasons that season 3 to me was a disappointment, particularly during the first chunk of it. I want to say maybe around for how many episodes was the season? Like 20 something? So close to the first half of the season. We had one of my favorite characters in the series just ruined. Mr. Cisco Ramon. I love Cisco. He felt like a stand-in for, you know, audience members who would fanboy or fangirl over some of their favorite heroes appearing on screen or giving nicknames to, you know, different, you know, adversaries of the week and so on and so forth. They made him depressed, and if I remember correctly, creating Flashpoint and then setting the timeline back, Cisco's brother was dead. I forgot how, what was it, a hit and run or something? I forgot. I just know that in season 1, he and his brother didn't get along a lot. And in season 2, I remember Cisco meeting his brother's doppelganger. I think Dante was his name. And then season 3, he's dead. He's depressed. He asked Barry to change the timeline. Again, he said he couldn't, which kind of made me mad. Not the fact that he couldn't change the timeline, but Jay Garrick prevented Barry from changing the timeline again after he found out, man, Flashpoint really screwed things up. Let me go change it again. And then Jay pulled him out of the Speed Force to talk with him and explain why he couldn't do it. So when Barry told Cisco he couldn't change the timeline, it's like it sounded like a jerk move as opposed to a jerk move going like, I'm not going to do it. And then instead of Barry going like, Cisco, I actually was about to change the timeline again, but Jay pulled me out of the Speed Force to have a discussion. Like, why couldn't you just tell Cisco that? I'm pretty sure Cisco would have still been upset, but at least he'd understand, oh, I get it. Yeah, it was selfish of you to make Flashpoint, and then you change the timeline back and then screw things up. But you were actually going to do it again to hopefully fix things. But Jay explained that you could just potentially make things worse, so we can move on from this. No, Cisco was just whiny for like the next several episodes. And then we get to the crossover. And if I remember correctly, in episode 3 or 4 of Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, on the Wave Rider, Martin Stein and Jefferson found a secret room that contained like a bunch of weapons and, Rip Hunter's like private collection of stuff. And there was a message from Barry Allen in 2056 about Flashpoint and how, don't trust anyone, don't even trust me. So then during the Invasion crossover, I believe Barry was pulled to the side along with Oliver to hear the message, and he didn't know what to make of it. So while Jefferson wanted to tell everybody about it, Oliver's like, hey, we're about to fight an alien invasion. I'm pretty sure now isn't the best time to tell everyone, hey, Barry changed the timeline, so everything that you're living and doing right now is different than how it was. Like, this is not the time for that. So next thing you know, Cisco went into that room after everybody was gone. He was looking for something. He came across the message. He confronted Barry about it. Barry was trying to keep it low key, and then Cisco just announced it to everyone. Mind you, this is when everybody was prepping. The Legends, like several members of Team Arrow, Team Flash, and Supergirl was there. So then Barry had to come clean about Flashpoint in front of everybody. And this was, man, I hated this. The freaking Legends of all people were the first to speak up. Sarah was the first one to chastise Barry about changing the timeline for selfish reasons. Like, Barry, I've learned that you can't change the timeline for your own selfish reasons. Even though up until the episode prior to the Invasion crossover, every episode of season 2, for the most part, after Damien Dark was reintroduced, Sarah wanted to kill him to get revenge because he would eventually kill her sister Laurel. And not only that, every episode of Legends, they end up screwing up the timeline, and the only reason they quote-unquote get a pass is because they have a time-traveling spaceship that allows them to go back and have a do-over. So for them, of all people, to get on Barry's case for creating, a separate timeline for his own selfish, whatever, desires, oh, I'm sorry, the kid wanted to bring his parents back because both of them were killed. Well, technically if I remember correctly, adult Flash from the future took young Barry out of the house before Thawne killed his mom. So as a kid, he didn't see his mom die. But he did see his mom die at the end of season 1 when he went back and tried to stop it. But then he saw Zoom kill his dad right in front of him moments before he created Flashpoint. So I understand. So everybody got on his case. Even, Ray Palmer decided to, chip in. And then Diggle, I can understand him being mad because, Barry erased his daughter. So there's that. But yeah, I just hated the characterization in this episode. I get it though. It's all about creating conflict and tension, but sometimes it's just extremely unnecessary. And then by one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Oliver and Barry scene was when Barry was in the time vault. And Ollie, man, look, I don't know. Stephen Amell is a polarizing person in real life based off of, what people have to say. I don't know the guy. All I can say is I know Oliver Queen, the character he plays. And I loved when, everybody really didn't trust Barry at that point. And Barry's like, hey, you know what? Supergirl can take my spot on the mission. She's just as fast as I am. I'll stay behind. And then as everybody turns to leave, Oliver is like, no, 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 no. This is crazy. If Barry doesn't go, I'm not going. And Diggle is like, then you'll be here, Ollie. So then Barry goes to the time vault and Oliver comes in and then he shows him, that paper from the future about him supposed to disappear. And then he's the entirety of season 3, Barry's been kicking himself about Flashpoint in general. If it wasn't about creating Flashpoint, it's about, saving Iris from Savitar. But Oliver just gave him some real talk. It wasn't about being judgmental. It wasn't about talking down to Barry. It's like, if anyone in your position with your abilities had the power to change time, to bring back someone that they lost, you're telling me none of them would do it? And you need to stop blaming yourself. And I just love that scene. I just love the scene. Even better is when he finally reveals to Barry, like, both of his parents were killed in front of him too. His dad sacrificed himself. Slade Wilson killed his mom in front of him, and he couldn't do anything to save him. And ironically enough, later on in the series, he would become the Spectre and, eventually bring back his mom, but couldn't bring back his dad. And, I just love that scene. And then, of course, Cisco stopped being a little bitch in the Legends episode of the crossover when he changed the timeline and made things worse by, I believe, rescuing one of the aliens from the government in the past. And then that same alien, I believe, turned out to be the ruler of the Dominators who were invading Earth and decided, we're not just going to wipe out the Flash for creating Flashpoint. We're actually going to wipe out all metahumans because I've realized that humanity as a whole is dangerous. And Cisco realized, I tried to change the timeline to make it better and I made things worse. And then I think Steel was like, that's exactly what Barry did. And then Cisco finally realized, I have been a douchebag. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that particular moment because as much as I love the Invasion crossover, it's not my favorite strictly due to whiny Cisco, the hypocritical Legends, and, it just made it worse. But I did love the crossover except for that. But also, I didn't like Supergirl episode because I remember, the 4-night crossover. And then the episode of Supergirl had absolutely nothing to do with the Dominator crossover. It was like at the very end of the episode, Barry and Cisco show up in her apartment. And that same scene was utilized in the episode of The Flash where it's like, we didn't even need to say that it was a 4-night crossover. Because in the episode of The Flash, Cisco and Barry went to Kara's Earth. So, man. But yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. And if there are any other topics, surrounding comic books and stuff like that you want me to talk about here on the channel, let me know.